Thought I heard something.
Heard what?
So
Yeah.
I guess we should talk about at least I should probably talk about Jacque Fresco because he just passed away, and that's kind of how I got started into not libertarian, but at least speaking about libertarianism on a public forum, was criticizing the Zeitgeist Movement and the Venus Project and all that other stuff. You're not too familiar with it, right? I mean,
No, like I told you earlier, a lot of what I know about the Venus Project, I learned from watching you, Jim.
I was never involved. Let me just put
No,
that
I know,
in there.
but
Yeah, I
no,
was never involved
learned
inside.
you talking about it and criticizing it. I think the first time I actually became really aware of it was unfortunately after I became a Molly fan, and I saw one of his I guess debates with what was that? Was it Peter Joseph? Is that crazy guy's name?
Would you see the one with Peter Joseph, or did you hear the one where someone it was almost like a call-in show?
No, I either watched or listened to the debate with him and Peter Joseph.
Okay.
So that was my first real introduction to the whole idea of it, and then I went back and did a little research on my own, but not a super, great deal into it.
And it's kind of funny listening to the left talk about the people who the radical left, like anarcho-communists, Marxists, all those people. If you listen to what their criticisms of the Venus Project is, it's like, guys, just come on board with us because you're saying the exact same thing. You're just using new words to talk about it with. Like everything that you say, like when they talk about like strategic access, like how we need to have like these centers like libraries where people can contribute to stuff to what they make, and everybody can take what they need to survive, and even for luxury items as well. And they were like, dude, that's just the commons. You just technicalize the terminology for the commons. That's all you did. Like everything that you talk about, it's just reworded stuff that we've been saying for forever. And so I think that criticism is like completely fair, that it's basically Marxism with robot.
Yeah, it is Marxism with robots. Well, like I said, that's as far as I got into it, and I communism with robots. That sounds about right. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, so that was been my criticism. Like, please tell me exactly how you differ from the Venus, from the Zeitgeist, or excuse me, tell me exactly how the Venus Project or the Zeitgeist Movement differs from Marx, because originally. So how this all started, because I don't know if you ever watched the original Zeitgeist film. There was like 3 parts. It was one part was about Christianity, the other part was about the Federal Reserve and 9/11.
Yeah, I watched most of all of them at different points,
Okay.
but it's been a while since I barely remember any of it, but I definitely watched a decent portion of them. I don't think I really listened to half of it, but I watched it.
Yeah. And so I guess what happened was he made the first movie, and then people were talking to him like, how do we solve all the problems that you talk about in this movie? And at the time, Peter Joseph was like a huge, Paul bot, like a Ron Paul, what do they call him? Paul Tard. He was a huge Paul Tard. And, that's why he talked a lot about like, not paying your taxes and, the IRS, and they're trying to chip us all, and 9/11 was an inside job. And it was, a lot of that stuff was really common in the whole, Ron Paul forums and stuff. And so he was just going to like produce something and be like, oh, libertarianism, gold standard, and, like small government, minarchy, Ron Paul, etc. And then there was people who were trying to give him like information like, oh, you should check these people out, whatever. And one of the people that contacted him was these nobodies from like Venus, Florida, like a swamp. and they sent him a book, and it was Jacque Fresco and his girlfriend or life partner or whatever he wants to call it, or whatever he did want to call it. He just passed away. And he sent him the book, was it The Best That Money Can't Buy or whatever, and he was completely convinced by it. And he went from talking like a normal human being into talking in like this weird jargon. I don't know if you ever saw that Don Perdeau. There's like a video about Don Perdeau where he says, like, he talks for like an entire minute and a half using like these big words. You could barely understand what he's saying, but the only thing that he actually says is use shorter words. He's like, that's all it means. And I wish I could pull that thing up. I have it somewhere.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty funny.
basically that's how Peter Joseph talks. Like he'll ramble on for like 10 minutes about like, you know, blah blah blah. But what he's really just saying is, man, capitalism sucks. Like it makes people poor. And you could just boil everything that Peter Joseph talks. But anyways, that's a side tangent. But anyways, they gave him this book that he went out and talked to them, and he was like, okay, I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to talk about the Venus Project. And so out of nowhere, like the Venus Project went to a thing where like maybe 50 people in the entire planet heard of this, to like a huge phenomenon. And like, you know, they're having like global events, and people are coming out, like they're filling up these relatively large auditoriums, like not like Madison Square Garden, just out of nowhere. And it's just because of this movie, and they produced like another movie about it, you know, the Moving Forward one, and you know, it just became great. Then of course because the guy who came up with this, Jacque Fresco, is a megalomaniac. So is Peter Joseph. If you know how megalomaniacs interact, they don't. They had a big falling out. And then it just kind of faded up back into obscurity again. And that was pretty much the whole story about the Zeitgeist Movement. And they're trying to stick around a little bit, and they're like, oh, we're still relevant. We're still growing. And it's like, but if you look on YouTube, there's nothing there. Like nobody's vlogging about it like it used to be. And it seems pretty much dead. And I guess he just passed away. The dude was like 100. He was I think he was like 89 when he first got involved with the group. So yeah, they've been around for like 10 years. Wow. It's really been that long? Jesus Christ! Yeah, 2007.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely, because I remember that as I was first getting into all this stuff, and even people that had watched the first, had initially got on board with it and rejected it quickly thereafter, tried to convince me, oh, you at least got to watch the first one, because the first one was still pretty good. So, but I remember watching it and going, yeah, there's a lot of repetitive stuff here. Yeah. not saying much. Like you said, taking a whole lot of words to say nothing. Yeah.
Peter Joseph knows how to make pretty shit on almost no budget. He's good with that. I could go into all the problems with the Christianity aspect of it, and I'm speaking from an atheist. Right, I as an atheist, there's a lot of problems with the whole like comparative religion thing. And if you even mention it, oh my goodness, you'll get like hate from Atari S fans and Zeitgeist fans, and like they used to be well organized. Like I used to get like hate mail from Atari S's webmaster, like it was insane. Like, are you crazy? But she passed away too recently, cancer. Wow, everybody's dying in that group, dying along with it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't wish them ill will. I don't want them to suffer, but at the same time, like, they're wrong. They're so wrong about everything. Yeah. Did you know anybody that got sucked into that thing? Because I that's how I got interested. Because like I went to California, I met some of my friends I haven't met in like 10 years, and they were like, "Oh, you got to check out the Zeitgeist Movement." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And they were explaining what it is, and I'm like, "Dude, that's just Marxism." Like, everything you just said was Marxism. And then I found critiques, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm right. It's Marxism.
Yeah, like I said, I knew a couple of people that like dabbled in it, but then they drifted away from it. I think I might have known one or two people that were still like, at least a few years back, that were still kind of like all about it, but then they disappeared from my radar altogether, so I have no idea what happened to them. Hopefully they gave it up again. But yeah, there's I don't know. Like I said, that's just that was one of those things. It was very easy for me to reject pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I do normally like to examine as many sides of a topic as I can before making a decision on whether I should keep it or get rid of it. That one didn't take me very long. No. I do remember that much about it.
There was actually because I know that communists are like upset by it because it's like a utopian version and it makes them look silly of what they believe. And there was kind of a version of that with, and it looked like it was directly inspired by a Zeitgeist called Thrive. Did you ever see that film? It is.
No, I heard. Oh, I heard about it, but I didn't see it. No.
Okay, it's basically the anarcho-capitalist version of that. Like, it starts out with like, oh, there's like this free energy machine that's being suppressed by the governments, and it was probably brought to us by alien technology, and it uses sacred geometry and ancient aliens.
Oh,
and that's how the movie starts, and you're just like, are
wow.
you kidding me? Like this is supposed to bring anarcho-capitalism, and you're talking about free energy suppression. And then it kind of goes into anarcho-capitalism, and then from there, like you think like, okay, just be done with it. No, they have to ruin it even further, and they have like Deepak Chopra on.
Oh, gee.
And they're talking about like, oh, this will save spirituality and bring us with oneness and bring the whole world into this torus, which is sacred geometry, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh my God. Stop! Stop it now. But yeah, it's the worst thing ever. And
was it made as a troll to like?
It seems like it would be, but I don't think they're. Nope. No.
What?
But yeah, it seems like it's it just seems like it's just a giant troll, but it's not. Like this guy who. The guy that made it is like an heir to like Johnson & Johnson or one of these huge kind of corporations or whatever. And he just dumped like millions of dollars into this movie. And it's beautiful, but it's crap. Like absolute crap from start to beginning. It's a bunch of woo. And I'm like, wow, this is where we're going. Okay.
Well, just like with libertarianism, man, you got to make it more mainstream and, Gotta water it down just the right amount for the for the average person to understand it, Jim. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how else are you supposed to get this message to them, Jim? They won't take it any other way. You know that.
It was not watered down at all, though. It was. I remember watching it and I was live tweeting it. The day we were looking forward to it because we're like, oh my God, this is the libertarian zeitgeist, and we knew it was going to be bad. And they had like this program. It cost like $5 to watch it, but people were paying it forward. So people would pay like $30 so that they can watch it, and then like let 4 other people watch it or something. And so I managed to get a hold of it, and I watched it, and I was live tweeting the movie like, oh my God, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, they're suppressing free energy machines from aliens. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, and it was a mess.